Hi. I never know whether I'm on or not. Give me 1 second while I just check that I'm in the right place in Instagram. Yes, I am. Beautiful. How are you? How's your day going? Good, I hope. I hope it's going well. It's fine if it's not. It's not fine, but I understand. Not every day goes great. So we're going to do meditation. This is a class. It's just a chance to meditate together. These meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. If you're curious about further emergence, I'll explain all about it at the end of the meditation when we're finished. You don't have to do the meditation. Sometimes it can be just too hard. But it's people just have it on in the background because it's nice to be around meditation. I find it peaceful. So either or. Now, normally on like I did these Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wednesday and Friday we just meditate, but on Monday, sorry, I just got a text there, which a little distraction. like that dog and up, squirrel. Anyway, on Monday I explain what I do. So if you're new to meditation, if this is the first time you're ever meditating, then today is the day for you. Now the different types of meditation. This is what I do. For me, it starts with why I meditate. I'm trying to connect to a part of me that I connect to every night when I go to sleep. Not the dreaming, but a bit after dreaming. So I'm sort of dreaming and then I drop out the bottom of dreaming into deep, dreamless sleep. That's the place I'm interested in, because when I'm there, I have no thoughts, no memories, no feelings, no emotions, no personality. Don't really have a body, bed, bedroom, house, nothing. It all just disappears. I even disappear in that I'm like the way that I normally register that I'm around, that I'm here, that's gone. There's nothing, just gone. Which you would kind of go, yeah, that sounds great, John. That's a terrible ad for meditation because that sounds awful. That sounds like death. Which is understandable. Thing is, though, I love going to sleep. It's not like I'm like, oh, I don't want to stop existing. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, I can't wait to go to sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I feel refreshed. So some part of me knows that wherever it is that I go to in that deep, dreamless place, it's good. And that's where I want to go to when I meditate. I just want to do it consciously. So straight away, first tip, if this is the first time you're ever meditating, don't try this lying down. Don't try to do this lying down. Because when you lie down and you close your eyes, your body, understandably, will go, it's sleep time, isn't it? And you'll battle sleep or you'll fall asleep. And both of which are kind of counter to what you're trying to do. So yeah, sit up. You don't have to sit in the lotus position or anything like that. Unless you're comfortable sitting in the lotus position, in which case, great, go for it. I'm just sitting in a chair. Just one little thing on your chair. Don't pick a really comfortable armchair, because then you'll probably fall asleep or you'll be into the whole sleep side of things again. So yeah, grand upright chair, slightly uncomfortable, would be great. So, as I said, no thoughts in this place. It's almost like a room that I go into when I meditate that my mind can't go into. Don't know why my mind can't go into it, but it can't. So from my mind's point of view, it's going to sit outside this room the whole time while I meditate. So it's boring for my mind. So it's important to get your mind on board for the process, I find. So for me, what I do is I just make a deal with my mind. I just say, would you just not think for the next 15 minutes because we want to meditate? Now, I've been meditating for many years, so my mind at this stage is like, okay, fine. It's on board, mostly, for the process. And that only really becomes an issue, having your mind on board, if you're having a long-term meditation practice. Because the first time you meditate, your mind is going to be on board for sure because it's new and interesting and different, and minds like that sort of thing. It's only like after the 20th time that your mind will be like, okay, there's nothing new here. I know what's going to happen. I've got to sit outside that door. So I won't go into that now because this is just for the first time, but if you have a problem with that, feel free to email me or get in touch and I'd see if I can help with that. So mind on board, good. Next thing, stop thinking. Now often people kind of think, oh, stopping thinking. If I could just stop thinking, that would be great. Like it's a very hard thing to do. What the hard thing about is not to stop thinking, it's to maintain it, maintain the stoppedness, if you like. So it doesn't really matter what I'm thinking about, which would be the content of my thoughts. The structure of my thoughts is always the same. It's always pictures and sound. So if I turn off the pictures and turn off the sound, that's it. I'm not thinking. And when I say sound, I'm not talking about the external sound. I'm talking about the internal sound, you know, the conversations, the monologues, the internal commentary, all that stuff. If I turn that off and I turn the pictures off, that's it. I'm not thinking. And as soon as I do that, I'm into the practice of meditation. Now, the practice of meditation runs parallel to the intention of my meditation. And the intention of my meditation is, as I said, to go to this deep, mysterious, profound, still, calm, Zen-like, you know, all those words that I use to describe meditation, that place. And the practice of meditation pretty much goes, I'll turn off the pictures, I'll turn off the sound, so I'll bring myself to not thinking. Then some time passes, then I discover I'm thinking again. I go, oh, thinking again, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself to not thinking. Then some more time passes, I discover I'm thinking again. I go, oh, thinking again, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself to not thinking. Then some more time passes, I discover I'm thinking again, and so on. So it's pretty simple. Every time I discover I'm thinking, I bring myself back to not thinking. And it's good to know that thinking can happen during meditation, because it's very easy to get the idea, the misconception that to meditate correctly, you shouldn't be thinking at all. Which isn't the case. Not in my experience anyway. These two things go together, the intention and the practice. They weave back and forth, you know, do a little dance. Sometimes I'll be very still, sometimes I'll be discovering that I'm thinking. Both are powerful in their own way. It's kind of obviously powerful when you are very still and deep, and you can feel the changes in your nervous system and your breathing changes, and it's very obviously powerful. It's also powerful when you're discovering that you're thinking, but that can be a little bit covered over by your mind, which, amazingly, even though it can never get into the room that you go into with meditation, that doesn't stop it having a lot to say about how you're doing with your meditation. So, you know, often you can overlook the power in what's happening when you discover that you're meditating, when you discover that you're thinking, because you're like, oh no, I'm thinking again, right? So if you just don't do that and just notice what's happening, because if you are me, sorry, normally I mute my phone, but didn't today. If you're like me, the sort of things that you think about are all to do with you. So I'll be thinking, why did I say that to that person? Why did that person say that to me? What am I going to do about that thing? And so on. Now, if I'm in the middle of one of the thoughts and I'm in the middle of meditation, then and I go, oh, I'm thinking again. I turn off the pictures, I turn off the sound, I bring myself to not thinking. Indirectly, what I'm saying to myself and what I'm demonstrating to myself is, you know that thought that you were just having, the one that you thought was you and that you were it? Well, you just made that disappear. Just gone. So you're obviously not that thought, the one that you thought you were. You're obviously not that thought. In fact, you are not any of your thoughts. You're something else. That's very powerful. And then the fact that you do that repeatedly is very powerful as well. So the main thing is, don't add to your thinking by thinking about how often you're thinking, because there's no right amount of times. You know, that changes from day to day and hour to hour. You could meditate in the morning and only have to bring yourself back from thinking 20, 30 times. And you could meditate in the afternoon and you might have to bring yourself back 200 or 300 times. Now, again, as I'm saying about the mind, my mind will like to have something to say about that, like, oh, the second meditation was rubbish compared to the first one. The first one was great. It doesn't work like that. one is not better than the other. So there's no quantity of, how many times you bring yourself back to meditation. It's really simple. Every time you discover that you're thinking, you bring yourself back to not thinking. If you do that, you're doing great. You're doing fantastic in meditation. Gold star. Now, while all that's going on, I'm also becoming a bit more conscious of my body, and in particular tensions in my body and breathing. So what I'm doing is I'm with my intention, not thinking. I'm sort of scanning my body up and down, very slowly, very gently, and anywhere I find tension, I let it go. And I use my out breath to let it go, because it's natural, feels natural to just, breathe it away. But it also is a very nice way of putting a bit more focus on my breathing, because it's quite easy to hold your breath in meditation. I know that sounds crazy, but it is. Or to stop breathing altogether. So a little bit of focus on my breathing just helps me not do that, not hold it so much. So using the out breath is great for that. And the other thing I do as I'm kind of with my intention scanning up and down is I spend a little bit more time on structures that go across my body. Mostly my body runs longitudinally, head to toe, but anywhere that goes across operates a little bit like a log going across a stream. It picks up all the twigs and the branches and anything else that's coming down the stream, except in my body, it's not twigs and branches, it's tension. So I spend a little bit more time on my eyes, they're a transverse sight, my jaw, my tongue, the base of my neck, my shoulder girdle, all my joints, they're transverse sights as well. So shoulder, elbow, wrists, fingers, my heart area, my respiratory diaphragm, all my intestines, my pelvic floor, my hips, my knees, my ankles and my toes. Having a nice quiet room is very helpful when you start out in meditation. Because one of the things that triggers thoughts one of the things that triggers thoughts is sound. And as soon as you close your eyes to meditate, your hearing amplifies. So having a nice quiet room where people are not calling you all the time is great. It's very helpful, particularly at the beginning. And the thing I do to help my mind have less things to think about is I set a timer for how long I meditate for. So I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, but I'd encourage you to set yours for 5 minutes and then repeat that 3 times. Because 15 minutes is a long time if you're not used to it. So let me get my timer organized. Okay, off we go then, into the mystery. All right, that's time. So further emergence is about growth, inner growth, growth in consciousness, growth in awareness. You could call it spiritual growth, all that inner kind of growth. It's particularly for those times when the growing speeds up, and in life can become very disorienting. Everything can seem like you don't understand how anything works anymore, or not you don't understand, but nothing seems to work anymore. You feel like you don't fit in your life. Nothing's permanent, everything's changing really fast. And the idea is that, well, your body pretty much stops growing when you become an adult, but you keep growing on the inside. That doesn't stop. That goes on for your whole life. And just like when you were a kid, you might have gone through periods of accelerated growth. They're called growth spurts. You go through the same on the inside, and they too continue on for your whole life as well. There's a big difference though between a growth spurt when you're a child and an inner growth spurt when you're an adult. Because when you're a child and you went to your parents and said, oh, my shins are killing me, your parents wouldn't have said, oh my God, let's go to the hospital. Or they wouldn't have said, let's go to the doctor. They would have just said, oh no, that's terrible. They're called growing pains and they'll pass, and it's natural. When you're going through an inner growth spurt and you're going through pain as a result of that, whether that's physical pain or emotional pain or spiritual pain, doesn't matter. It's much harder to know that you're in the middle of a natural process, and that you're in the middle of something that will pass. There's a much bigger space to feel like I'm broken in some way, and this isn't natural, and there's definitely something. That person really wants to ring me. I'm nearly finished. So the main focus of the further emergence work is to support growth, inner growth, and then specifically when that growing gets accelerated in growth spurts. So I do that with these meditations, because meditation is very helpful for that kind of inner growth. Because when you meditate, you become more familiar with your inner landscape, and knowing your inner landscape a bit better really helps with inner growth spurts. Also, there's a retreat every month, last Saturday in every month. Now we do a bit more meditation there, the longer meditation, sort of a half day the retreats are. And there's a chance to talk to other people and see what's going on for other people. Have some questions answered, share what's going on for you. And that really helps with the feeling of, oh, it's not just me, I'm not losing my mind here. This is a thing, and other people are going through it as well. And there's a feeling of community and a sense of you're not completely on your own with it, which is great. I work with people one-to-one as well. That's helpful because how the inner growth spurt manifests is really different from person to person and time to time, Sometimes it can be very physical, you can have physical symptoms. Sometimes it can be very emotional, spiritual, psychedelic almost. So I've been through it myself loads of times. I've helped loads of people through it as well. So it's just really helpful to get very specific feedback for you. I also work behind the scenes energetically to help your system be as harmonious in that process as possible. There's a podcast, there's a YouTube channel, I have books, I've written like 4 books. So there's loads of support there for you, should you want it. So if you've stayed with me all the way to the end of the video, maybe some part of you is going, yeah, there's something to this. So I'd encourage you to let that part of you tell you what the next thing for you to do is, whether it's meditation, whether it's getting in touch for some one-to-one work, coming to a retreat.